It was early morning. The sun had just started to rise, painting the sky with soft pink and gold colors. 16-year-old Nia Cole stood in front of her large bedroom mirror, brushing her curls carefully. Her suitcase was packed, her clothes neat, and her first-class boarding pass tucked safely into her small black purse. Today was special. She was flying alone for the first time, first class, from Los Angeles to New York, for a youth leadership conference. Hundreds of teens from around the country would be there. Nia had worked hard for this moment. She was proud, but she was also a little nervous. Downstairs, her father, Mr. James Cole, was waiting at the kitchen table. A strong, tall man in his late 40s, he wore a simple black suit and a warm smile. He was the CEO of one of the biggest airline companies in the world. Many people admired him, but to Nia, he was just Dad. "Ready, kiddo?" he asked, sipping his coffee. Nia nodded, adjusting her glasses, a little scared, but yeah. Mr. Cole stood up and walked toward her. He put both hands on her shoulders. "You've got this. You belong wherever your ticket takes you," he said gently. Nia smiled. She'd heard him say that line before, especially when people questioned why she was sitting in first class. Even when she was with her dad, people sometimes assumed they didn't belong. But Mr. Cole never let it bother him. "Don't be afraid to stand tall," he added. "You're a Cole. We rise with grace." They left the house and drove quietly to the airport. The city was still waking up, the streets calm. Nia watched buildings pass by, her heart beating fast. Excitement and nerves danced together in her chest. At the airport, the driver opened the car door for her. Mr. Cole gave her a hug that lasted a few seconds longer than usual. "Call me before you take off," he said. "I will." She waved goodbye, pulled her suitcase, and walked into the airport alone. The large terminal buzzed with sound, announcements, rolling luggage, people rushing in all directions. Nia moved slowly, careful not to bump into anyone. She found the check-in counter and gave the woman her ticket. The lady looked at her, then the ticket, and smiled. "First class. Ha. Lucky girl." Nia nodded politely. At security, everything went smoothly. She showed her ID, took off her shoes, and passed through the scanner. The TSA agent gave her a smile. "Have a great flight." Nia found her gate and sat in the waiting area. She opened a small book from her backpack and began to read, trying to relax. A few minutes later, a woman in a sharp navy uniform walked past her. The woman's eyes landed on Nia for a moment, then moved on. Nia didn't think much of it. The loudspeaker announced boarding for first-class passengers. Nia stood up, fixed her jacket, and pulled her bag toward the gate. Her heart thumped faster. She walked with quiet confidence. This was her seat, her place. She had worked for it. As she stepped onto the jet bridge, she felt a soft breeze from the air conditioning. The smell of coffee and jet fuel filled the space. Inside the plane, a flight attendant stood near the entrance, greeting passengers. It was the same woman who had looked at her earlier. "Good morning," Nia said kindly, showing her ticket. The woman, whose name tag said Tracy, gave a quick glance at the paper. Then her eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry, miss. Are you sure you're in the right section?" Nia blinked. "Yes. First class. Seat 2A. Tracy frowned, then looked closer at the ticket. Please wait here a moment," she said, her voice cold. Nia stood still, unsure. A few passengers looked at her as they walked past. She felt small, like she was shrinking. Tracy stepped away to talk to another flight attendant in a low voice. They both glanced at Nia. Something felt wrong. Nia held her purse tighter. Her legs felt stiff. The joyful energy she had in the morning was fading. "Is something wrong?" she asked gently when Tracy returned. Tracy didn't answer right away. She looked her up and down, then said, "We'll need to double-check your boarding pass. Just wait here." Nia's cheeks grew hot. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She had the ticket. She followed every rule. So, why did she feel like she was being treated like a criminal? She looked around. Other passengers were being shown to their seats. Some were even getting champagne. But she stood in the doorway, like an outsider. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her dad. "Mr. Cole, you boarded yet?" She stared at the screen for a second. Her heart beat faster. Then she typed back, "Nia, trying to. Something's wrong." And right at that moment, everything began to change. Nia stood near the plane's entrance, her feet not moving, her heart beating faster with every second. She held her boarding pass in one hand, her phone in the other. Around her, first-class passengers were walking past, greeted warmly by flight attendants, shown to soft, wide seats. But Nia was still standing there. Flight attendant Tracy had not returned yet. She had walked away again, this time holding Nia's boarding pass in her hand. She hadn't smiled. She hadn't said anything comforting. Nia looked down at the clean carpet of the airplane floor. Her bag felt heavier than before. Her chest felt tight. Some passengers glanced at her with curiosity. A few frowned. No one spoke to her. She felt alone in a space where she was supposed to belong. Suddenly, Tracy came back. Her lips were pressed into a straight line. "We're checking with the gate about your ticket," she said. "But I printed it this morning. I also have the digital copy," Nia said, gently holding up her phone. Tracy didn't look at it. "We just need to be sure, Miss." Miss. Not her name. Not even a polite tone. Nia's eyes stung a little, but she blinked fast to stop the tears. Tracy turned to another flight attendant, a younger woman named Elise, and whispered something. Elise looked surprised and leaned in to say something back. Nia couldn't hear the words, but she saw Elise glance at her and then down at the ticket in Tracy's hand. Nia cleared her throat and tried to keep her voice calm. "Is there a problem? Did I do something wrong?" Elise gave her a small smile, but Tracy stepped in first. No, she said quickly. "We just don't want any confusion in the cabin. It's standard procedure when things seem unusual." Unusual. That word hit Nia like a slap. What was unusual? That she was young. That she was flying first class. That she was black. She looked again at the empty seat in row 2. It was right there. Her name was printed on the boarding pass, but she was still standing. Passengers continued boarding behind her. The line was moving slower now, as some people noticed the tension. A man wearing a suit paused behind Nia. "Excuse me," he said to Tracy, "is something going on?" Tracy smiled at the man. "Oh no, just a small mistake with the seating. It'll be sorted soon." The man nodded and kept walking. Nia stared at Tracy. The mistake. Whose mistake? She had done nothing wrong. "I was assigned seat 2A," Nia said, louder this time, holding her ground. "I don't understand why I'm being stopped." Tracy didn't answer. Instead, she stepped aside and spoke into the phone near the cockpit door. Nia's fingers shook slightly as she pulled up the airline app on her phone. She opened her digital ticket. It clearly said, Flight 827, Relax to JFK. Seat 2A, First Class. Passenger, Nia Cole. She took a deep breath. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. It was her dad calling. She answered quietly. "Hey, why aren't you in your seat yet?" Mr. Cole's voice was calm, but concerned. "They won't let me sit," she whispered. "They took my boarding pass. They're checking something." "What?" he said, voice rising. "Put me on speaker." "Dad." "Nia." "Speaker. Now." With a shaky hand, Nia tapped the speaker icon. "Excuse me," she said to Tracy, holding up the phone. "My dad would like to speak with you." Tracy turned around, clearly annoyed. "We're busy. Please tell him we'll sort it." The voice from the phone cut her off. "This is James Cole, CEO of this airline. Who am I speaking to?" Tracy's face froze. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. "I repeat," Mr. Cole said slowly, "who am I speaking to?" Tracy looked pale. Alyssa's eyes went wide. Nia stood taller. She didn't smile, but she no longer felt small. Tracy finally spoke, voice tight. I'm Flight Attendant Tracy. I wasn't aware." "Clearly," Mr. Cole said. "My daughter has the correct seat. She is to be treated like every other passenger, or better, since she has already been treated poorly." "Understood." Tracy nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Of course." The call ended. Tracy handed Nia's ticket back with shaking fingers. "Please, right this way, Miss Cole." Nia walked past her slowly. Her seat was waiting. She sat down, head high. Passengers whispered around her. Elise brought her water and apologized softly. But Nia didn't smile. She just looked out the window, heart still pounding, and thought. Nia sat quietly in her first-class seat, staring out the small airplane window. The sky outside was still dark with early morning light. Her hands rested on her lap, fingers locked together. She looked calm, but her heart was still heavy. The seat was soft, wide, and luxurious. A small screen glowed in front of her. A tray table was folded neatly by her side. A white pillow waited behind her back. Everything was perfect, except for how she felt inside. She wasn't sure if people were still looking at her. She could feel a few eyes now and then. Whispers, quick glances, quiet conversations behind napkins. The flight attendants walked through the cabin, checking passengers, offering orange juice and coffee. Tracy, the same flight attendant who had stopped her at the door, passed by her row. Nia looked straight ahead, pretending not to notice. Tracy slowed down for a second, then kept walking. She hadn't apologized. Not truly. Not from the heart. Another flight attendant, Elise, came by with a kind smile and placed a warm towel on Nia's tray. "Let me know if you need anything, okay?" she whispered. Nia nodded. "Thank you." Elise looked like she wanted to say more, but she moved on. Suddenly, the older man sitting in seat 2B, next to Nia, leaned slightly toward her. He was dressed in a fancy gray suit, had silver hair, and wore an expensive-looking watch. "I saw what happened back there," he said in a low voice. Nia turned her head slowly. "You handled it with real class," he added. "Not many people your age could do that." "Thanks," Nia said, but her voice was small. The man smiled. "Some people still make silly assumptions, don't they?" Nia just looked at him. She didn't want to say anything rude, but she didn't want to make small talk either. "I'm Jack," the man added, reaching out his hand. "Nia," she said, shaking it softly. Jack nodded. "Pleasure to meet you, Nia. I think your dad is a smart man." Nia gave a small smile. That was the first kind thing someone had said to her all morning. The engines began to roar. The plane started moving slowly toward the runway. A voice came through the speakers. It was the captain. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're preparing for takeoff. Please fasten your seatbelts." Nia took a deep breath and buckled her seatbelt. She tried to relax. As the plane rolled faster and lifted into the sky, she closed her eyes. For a few minutes, there was peace, just the hum of the engines and the soft lights above. But peace didn't last long. About 30 minutes into the flight, while the plane was cruising smoothly, Nia heard soft voices from the galley, the small kitchen area behind the curtain. It was Tracy and someone else. The voices weren't clear, but Nia caught bits and pieces. Didn't know she was the CEO's daughter. Could have been anyone. She didn't look like first class. "He called and yelled at me, like it's my fault." Nia's chest tightened again. She wasn't supposed to hear those words, but she had. She sat frozen in her seat. It wasn't just about a mistake anymore. They were still judging her, still assuming, still making it her fault. Just then, Jack leaned over again. "Can I say something, Nia?" She didn't answer, but he spoke anyway. "You don't owe anyone an explanation for being here. You earned this place. You belong here just like anyone else." Nia looked at him, surprised. He seemed sincere. "I was the first in my family to ever fly first class," Jack continued. "It was hard. People looked. People whispered. But you know what I learned?" She raised an eyebrow. "You don't fight them with anger. You fight them with success." That made Nia think. It didn't take the pain away, but it added a little strength. Elise came back to serve breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, and fruit. Nia said thank you softly. When she pulled her tray out, she noticed something strange. Her orange juice was missing. Everyone else had it. She looked up, confused. Elise blinked. "Oh, sorry. I think it was on the cart. I'll go get it." But when she turned around, Nia heard Tracy behind the curtain again. "Why are you babying her? She's just a kid." Nia's hands slowly curled into fists. Something was building inside her. Something strong. Something louder than fear. And she thought to herself. Nia sat in silence, her breakfast tray still in front of her. The eggs had gone cold, the toast untouched. She wasn't hungry anymore. She stared straight ahead, but her mind was racing. Tracy's words, the whispers, the judgment. They echoed louder than the hum of the engines. She had hoped that things would calm down after her father's phone call. She had hoped that being in her seat would be the end of it. But now she knew it was only the beginning. The curtain behind her moved. Elise appeared again, carrying a glass of orange juice. She placed it gently on Nia's tray. "Sorry for the delay." Nia nodded. "Thanks." But Elise didn't walk away this time. She leaned a little closer and spoke softly. "I heard what Tracy said earlier. I just want you to know. I don't agree with her. And I'm sorry you've been treated this way." Nia looked at her. For the first time all morning, someone truly sounded like they cared. Elise continued, "I've worked with her for 2 years. She's not always kind, especially to people who don't look a certain way." Nia nodded slowly. She appreciated the honesty. "Do you want to speak with the captain?" Elise asked. Nia blinked. "What?" "If you want," Elise said gently. "I can tell him everything that's happened. He takes things like this seriously. You don't have to stay quiet." For a moment, Nia hesitated. She didn't want to cause more drama. She didn't want more people staring at her. But then she thought about what her dad always said. "Use your voice. That's your power." Nia looked up. "Yes. Please tell him." Elise gave a firm nod. "I will." She disappeared behind the curtain. Nia took a sip of her juice and leaned back in her seat. Her hand still shook a little, but something inside her felt stronger. A few minutes passed. Then the curtain moved again. This time, it wasn't Elise. It was the captain. A tall man in a dark blue uniform with silver wings on his chest. He walked into first class with a calm but serious face. He stopped right at Nia's row. "Miss Cole?" he asked. Nia looked up. "Yes, sir." "I'm Captain Harris," he said. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Nia nodded. The captain crouched slightly so he was eye level with her. "I've just spoken with Elise," he said. "She told me what happened during boarding and what's been happening since." Nia stayed quiet, listening carefully. "I want you to know," he continued, "that this airline does not tolerate discrimination. Not in the air. Not on the ground. You deserve to be treated with full respect." Nia nodded slowly. "Thank you." The captain looked over his shoulder, then back at her. "Would it be all right if I asked the flight attendant to come here, to speak with you directly?" Her heart raced a little, but she nodded again. "Yes." The captain stood up, turned, and called quietly, "Tracy." Everyone in first class turned their heads. Tracy came out, her face stiff, clearly uncomfortable. "Yes, Captain," she said, glancing at Nia. then quickly looking away. Captain Harris kept his voice firm but professional. Miss Cole has expressed that she did not feel welcomed or respected by you. Would you like to say something to her? Tracy's eyes shifted. She didn't want to speak. Her pride held her back. But under the captain's gaze, and with all of first class watching, she had no choice. She looked at Nia. I apologize if I made you feel unwelcome. That was not my intention. It was short, cold, not honest. But Nia held her head high and replied calmly, "Thank you." The captain turned to Tracy again. "Please remember, every passenger deserves equal respect, regardless of age, color, or class. You will treat Miss Cole with kindness and professionalism for the rest of this flight. Understood?" Tracy nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." She turned and walked away, her face red. Captain Harris gave Nia a gentle smile. "If you need anything else, just press the button. We're here for you." He walked back to the cockpit. The cabin was quiet for a moment. Then the man next to her, Jack, spoke again. "Well done," he said softly. "You stood up. You didn't let them silence you." Nia didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her actions had already spoken louder than words. She took another sip of her juice, leaned back, and whispered to herself, "I belong here, and I'm not afraid to remind them." After the captain walked away, something changed in the cabin. The air felt different. Passengers who had been silent before now looked at Nia with a new kind of respect. No more awkward glances, no more whispering. Even Jack, her neighbor, sat taller beside her, as if proud to be near her. Nia didn't smile, but something in her eyes had shifted. The fear, the doubt, they were fading. In their place was calm confidence. She looked out the window. The clouds floated below, peaceful and endless. Just like her father had always said, above the noise, there's always peace. Still, the moment wasn't over. A few minutes later, Elise came by again. "That was brave," she whispered. "Most adults wouldn't have spoken up like you did." Nia just gave a small nod. She was still processing it all. Then Elise leaned closer and added, "You're not just brave. You're changing the way people think. I hope you know that." Nia blinked. She had never thought of it like that. Changing how people think. That felt big. But before she could say anything, a soft voice spoke from the row behind her. "Excuse me." Nia turned her head. A woman, maybe in her 50s, leaned forward. She had short brown hair, glasses, and a kind face. "I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry for what happened earlier. I didn't say anything, and I should have." Nia was surprised. "It's okay." "No," the woman said gently. "It's not okay. You were treated unfairly, and I didn't stand up. But you did. And that matters." Nia gave a polite smile. "Thank you." The woman smiled back, then leaned back into her seat. For the first time that morning, Nia felt seen. Not just noticed, but truly seen. Not long after, a young girl from economy class walked up front with her mom. They were headed to the restroom, but the girl stopped when she saw Nia. She whispered to her mom, who smiled and nodded. The girl turned to Nia and said, "You're really cool." Nia couldn't help it. She laughed a little. "You're cool too," she replied. The girl grinned and walked off. Jack chuckled next to her. "You've got fans now." Nia looked down, then smiled. Still, one person hadn't changed. The person who had started all of this. Tracy. She was quiet, careful, avoiding eye contact. But Nia noticed her stiff shoulders, the way she walked quickly through the cabin without stopping near her. She was no longer in control, and she knew it. Just then, Elise came back again. "Miss Cole," she said softly, "the captain asked if you'd like to visit the cockpit after landing." Nia's eyes widened. "Really?" Elise smiled. "Yes. It's not common, but he said you deserve a first-class experience all the way." Nia nodded slowly. "I'd like that." The next hour of the flight passed quietly, peacefully. Breakfast trays were cleared, cabin lights dimmed. Nia sat back, watching the clouds, her thoughts drifting. She thought of her dad, his words, his lessons. The world might not always treat you fairly, but how you respond, that's your power. He had always told her that first class wasn't about money. It was about knowing your worth, walking with pride, and never letting someone else tell you where you belong. And now, she truly understood. As the plane began its descent, Elise returned with a soft voice. "We'll be landing shortly. I'll come get you once the seatbelt signs go off." Nia nodded. When the wheels touched down and the plane rolled to the gate, a soft applause rose from a few passengers. Jack leaned in again. "Well, Nia, it's been an honor sitting beside you." "You too," she said with a smile. The seatbelt sign dinged. Elise returned. "This way, please." Nia stood. Every step down the aisle felt different now. People looked at her, but not with doubt, with quiet admiration. She reached the cockpit door. Captain Harris stepped out. "Welcome," he said, "ready to see how it all works." Nia nodded, eyes wide with excitement. But before she went in, she turned her head slightly, just enough to glance at Tracy one last time. Tracy looked away. Nia didn't say a word. She didn't need to. As Nia stepped into the cockpit, her eyes grew wide with wonder. There were buttons, switches, glowing screens, and two large windows that looked out over the runway. The captain's seat looked like something from a spaceship. Captain Harris smiled. "Welcome to the flight deck." Nia grinned. "This is amazing." He laughed gently. "It sure is. Most people never get to see this, but today you've earned it." She stepped closer, her fingers itching to touch the controls, though she kept her hands to herself. Captain Harris pointed to different panels. "That's the autopilot. This one's for communication. And here, this is what keeps the whole plane steady in the air." Nia nodded, soaking in every word. "It's like flying a city," he said, smiling. "But the most important part of the flight isn't the controls. It's how we treat the people on board." He paused, then looked at Nia with gentle eyes. "And you reminded everyone of that today." Nia didn't know what to say. Her heart felt full. Then the captain reached into a side compartment and pulled out a small pin. It had silver wings and the airline's logo in the center. "I'd like to give you this," he said. Nia stared at the pin, speechless. "It's called a junior aviator pin," the captain explained. "We usually give it to kids on their first flight. But today, I'm giving it to you. Not just because it's your first time flying alone, but because you flew higher than anyone's expectations." Nia took the pin with trembling fingers. "Thank you," she whispered. She looked down at the wings, then gently pinned it to her jacket. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her dad. "Plane landed yet. I'm waiting at gate 7. So proud of you." She smiled and texted back. "Just got the coolest pin from the captain. I'll tell you everything." Captain Harris smiled. "Well, I won't keep you long. Your dad must be waiting." As they stepped out of the cockpit, Elise stood nearby, holding Nia's bag. "Your ride is here," she said with a smile. Nia nodded, said thank you one last time, and began walking toward the exit. The walk through the jet bridge felt different now, like a red carpet. On the other side of the glass doors stood Mr. Cole, dressed in a sharp suit, holding a bouquet of flowers, and beaming with pride. Nia ran to him. "Dad." He hugged her tight. "Hey, superstar, how was the flight?" Nia leaned back and smiled. "You won't believe what happened." She started to tell him everything. The rude flight attendant, the crowd watching, the captain stepping in, the cockpit tour, the pin. Mr. Cole listened quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. When she finished, he said, "You handled everything just like I hoped you would." "But it wasn't easy," Nia admitted. "I know," he replied, "but nothing great ever is. You stood tall. You reminded them that you belong. And that's powerful. They walked side by side toward the parking area. As they passed the large windows, something caught Nia's eye. Tracy, the flight attendant, walking away slowly, her head down. Nia paused. Should I have said something more to her? She asked. Mr. Cole followed her gaze. Sometimes, he said, the strongest message is silence. She knows what she did, and so does everyone else. Nia nodded slowly. Just then, Elise came jogging toward them. Miss Cole. They turned. I almost forgot, Elise said, slightly out of breath. This is for you. She handed Nia a small envelope. What is it? Nia asked. Just open it when you get home, Elise said with a wink. Let's just say, it's from someone who thinks you'll be flying even higher soon. Nia took the envelope with a smile. Thank you for everything. Elise gave her a thumbs up and walked away. As Nia and her father reached the car, she glanced at the envelope again. She had no idea what was inside, but for the first time all day, she wasn't nervous. She was excited, because now she knew exactly who she was, and no seat, no ticket, no rude words could ever take that away. The sun was setting when Nia and her father arrived home. The sky glowed orange and gold, painting the clouds like fire. Nia sat quietly in the car, holding the small white envelope Elise had given her. She hadn't opened it yet. Her father glanced over. You gonna check what's inside? Nia nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I'm ready. She carefully tore the top open and pulled out a folded letter. There was something else inside too, a card. First, she read the letter. Dear Nia, what happened on the flight today should never have happened. You were calm, respectful, and brave. You reminded us all that kindness and courage are more powerful than any seat or title. As a thank you, and because we believe in young leaders like you, we've added a small surprise to this envelope. We hope to see you in the skies again soon. Captain Harris and the flight crew. Nia's hands trembled slightly as she looked at the card inside. It was a first-class lounge pass, with her name printed in gold. But that wasn't all. Attached to the back was a travel voucher worth $5,000. She gasped. Dad, look at this. Mr. Cole leaned over and smiled. Now that's what I call flying with dignity. Nia stared at the letter again. She couldn't believe it. She had gone from being treated like she didn't belong to being honored in the most unexpected way. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. You see, you didn't have to fight with anger. You led with grace. That's real power. Nia felt warmth spread through her chest, not because of the voucher, not even the lounge pass, but because her voice had been heard. Her story had been seen. Later that evening, after dinner, Nia went to her room. She placed the letter in her journal and pinned the aviator wings on her vision board. Above it, she wrote a message to herself. You belong. Always. She smiled. Then she picked up her phone and opened a blank note. She began to type. Dear girls who feel like they don't belong. I was one of you. Today, someone tried to tell me I wasn't enough, that I didn't deserve my seat, but I stayed calm. I told the truth, and the truth spoke louder than hate. Never let anyone shrink you. Your voice is powerful. Use it. Nia. She pressed save and looked at the screen for a moment. Maybe one day she'd share it with others. Maybe this was just the beginning of something bigger. A knock came at her door. Come in, she said. Her father peeked inside. How are you feeling? Like I just learned to fly, she replied with a grin. He chuckled. Get some sleep, superstar. Big things ahead. She nodded. Good night, Dad. As he closed the door, Nia looked up at the stars outside her window. She didn't know where her next flight would take her. A few months had passed since that unforgettable flight. Life for Nia had returned to normal, or so it seemed. She still went to school, studied hard, and helped her father with his charity work. But something inside her had changed forever. She walked taller now. She spoke with more confidence. And she had discovered something she never expected that day on the plane. Her voice had power. One morning, as she scrolled through her messages before school, she saw something surprising, an email from the airline's corporate office. She opened it quickly. Dear Nia Cole, after your experience and the way you handled it with maturity, we'd like to invite you to speak at our upcoming Youth Leadership Summit. The topic, Belonging at 30,000 feet, a conversation on equality in the skies. We believe your voice can inspire others. Sincerely, Corporate Relations Team. Nia stared at the screen in shock. She read the message again, then again. Me, speaking, she whispered. Later that evening, she showed the email to her father. He read it silently, then smiled. Looks like someone is about to take off again. Nia was nervous, but also excited. She spent the next few days preparing her speech. She practiced in front of the mirror. She practiced with her dad. She even practiced while brushing her teeth. Finally, the big day came. She stood backstage in a room filled with people from around the world. Pilots, students, teachers, and airline executives. Her name was called. She walked to the stage, took a deep breath, and looked at the crowd. They were all watching her. But this time, she wasn't afraid. She smiled and began. A few months ago, someone told me I didn't belong in first class, just because of how I looked. But today, I'm here to tell you, you belong wherever your ticket takes you. And no one can change that, not even at 30,000 feet. The room fell silent. Then someone clapped, then another. Soon, the entire room stood up and applauded. Nia felt her eyes tear up, not because she was proud of herself, but because she knew somewhere in the crowd, a young girl just like her was listening. After her speech, a group of students came up to her. You were amazing, one said. I've always been scared to speak up, but now I think I can. That night, Nia returned home, her heart full. She sat by the window again, looking at the stars like she did months ago. Only this time, she wasn't wondering where she belonged. She knew, and she also knew that this was just the beginning. Because now, she had wings. Not just the silver pin from the captain, but wings made of courage, truth, and a voice that could never be silenced again.